Hello, Internet. It is time for another Wednesday serial, but not really. I'm gonna just be talking about Denver Comic Con 2014, and I just kind of wanted to show what I picked up, tell you my stories, and do that whole thing. So it's going to be a really sloppy video, so if this is your first time tuning in for some random reason, please don't judge me. I am whipped, I am tired, and I'm sure as hell not going to edit. So there you go. So first thing I want to talk about is just some of the general overallness of the con. It started off way better because the one thing I hated the most about the last couple of years was the line to get in. It was bad. It was really bad, and it was wasting a lot of time for no reason, and was just painful to sit through. And the first year is actually endangering people by shoving people out into the street. Yeah, not good. So this year, we show up, and I mean, there's a line, but we just kind of like filter through and keep moving, and then we get in, and it's no big deal. I mean, yeah, they gotta line people up to get in, I understand. So that was good. Also, we were able to get indoors, which, like, the entire front-facing part of it, the last few years, are like, you're not allowed to come in this way, because even though we have badges, so it shouldn't matter, and they were just being ridiculous about it. This year, that was gone. The thing was, though, Sunday, today, they ended up lining us up and then walking us around the entire Denver Convention Center, then letting us in. So we're basically walking a mile before we can get it. Now, don't get me wrong, I can walk a mile, but I mean, there's also disabled people, there's little kids, and I mean, it's a nerd convention. There's some people who are a little, not even winded necessarily for most of them, but just, a little tired, so they're just clobbing in the lobby, talking, just kind of catching their breath a little bit, and it's just like, gee, it was just a cluster that wasn't needed. And so that was a real drain of energy and excitement to start off Sunday, which is, already kind of a funk day at the con. But overall, it was really cool. The exhibit hall was huge. Like, the exhibit hall is just much bigger. They got much more room, so it was a lot nicer. People could move much more freely. Didn't feel like there were that many more artists, but it was a lot easier to get to, and if there was a line, it wasn't a huge deal. There was a lot more media guests, and there was all that for people who cared. They had a lot of Power Rangers and Star Trek The Next Generation people. And whereas I'm not so big on that, they did have a Star Trek Next Generation reunion thing that I would have been interested in, but it was a separate ticket that you had to pay for, and F that noise. Yeah. And there was a whole gaming exhibit. That was interesting, because I had a friend of mine who knows that scene a lot better than I do kind of show me some stuff. And part of that is the fighting game scene. There's a few different chunks of that. Big part of it so far with Denver Comic Con is this thing called C3, Colorado Cutthroat, that does competitive gaming. And the guy who runs that is being sued into oblivion, and some guy let them know about that, because obviously the guy getting sued wasn't letting Denver Comic Con know about that, and it's interesting. So that guy's not going to be allowed to come back to Denver Comic Con anymore, but I heard him talking about keeping the legacy alive while he was there. Obviously the guy's a little shady, so it's just kind of an interesting another track. Also there, I mean, there was a place demoing an Oculus Rift, and some people showing their small studio games, and that was cool to see. But I'm going to get more to the comic stuff here and just kind of work through and show you kind of what I got. And yeah. So first up, I want to talk about seeing John Layman was really cool, because I saw him at Comic Fest a couple years ago, which was something I did also help organize back in the day. And it was funny when he came to this Comic Fest. Apparently he had no idea, and so this time he's at Comic-Con, he's telling us, like, yeah, I was in Denver a couple of years ago, but they dragged me to this hotel, and I had no idea what was going on. I thought I was going to one of these things, but it was just a sideshow thing, and it's part of something else. He had no clue what was going on. That explains why him and Guillory were so grumpy, and I just thought it was funny, because I thought, oh man, those guys are just, like, not so great in person or whatever, and now I get it totally. And he was so cool. He was pretty much beaming the entire time. I saw him on a couple panels, and he was really willing to engage with the audience, and, like, really willing to talk, and just definitely had a positive attitude, and it was just like, oh my god, okay, that was crazy. So it was kind of cool to see that one of my favorite creators actually is a really cool guy. And he was telling me they don't like doing variant covers too much, but once a year for San Diego, they do one. They try to make it cool and something special and justify it in a way. But the reason they do that is they need to sell those covers to kind of finance it, because dealing with everything getting there and the cost of getting in, they need to bring up a little bit of cheddar to, get through. And so, and then whatever they don't sell, they bring to the rest of the cons until they sell out. And so that was this year's, and my lady friend picked it up, and it's a really cool freaking cover. So, there you go. And I got him to sign my True Revival, because I know what to pick, and I was like, that would be a cool one to have a signature on. Then maybe, throughout the conventions, throughout the years, I could try to get all of them to sign it, and that would be a cool little book to have. And then, so, I got Fiona Staples to sign the latest saga, but I had a real fun time, because I've been getting a friend of mine into comics more recently, and the book I've been really trying to sell him on, because it's great, and because it kind of fits his sensibilities, is Saga. And so we were trying to get something signed for him, and we were going to pick up a trade or whatever, but we went by her booth and she wasn't there, and so we were going to go wander elsewhere. And so we're going by, and then out from a panel room, out walks this lady, and it's like, hey, Matt, and I'm like, oh, hey, how's it going? And we keep walking, and then our third friend looks at me and is like, oh, who was that? Thinking it was someone from, like, my anime club or something. I'm like, oh, yeah, that was Fiona Staples. They both are like, what? And just break up. It was just the funniest moment. The comedic timing was just perfect. I don't know. Anyways, it was kind of a cool moment. That was my big con story this year. All right, and then I got to... Man, I got this Peanuts comic. I can't wait to dig into it. And it was a variant cover, so I had to pay $10. But it was so cool, and he did a little blurb. But Caleb Monroe was talking to me about this. He has 2 stories in here. And he was telling me about how the Schultz estate wants to keep the legacy going, but they want to do it as Schultz had it with Peanuts. So the strip will never be, again, they'll reprint or whatever, but they won't let someone else do the strip. But there were, like, comic book stories, like short stories, and there were, like, animation specials and stuff, and obviously some merchandising and whatnot, and they'll allow that as long as it fits the vision as they understand it. There was a lot of understudies and family and stuff that are all part of this working. And so this guy Monroe was telling me that he also, for they have Kaboom here, but for Boom, does a story for the British Avengers stuff. They name it differently, but he had like a 20-some page story in there that he spent so much time on. But in this other book, he had a story with Woodstock, where Woodstock doesn't actually say anything. There's word bubbles, but there's just dashes, whatever. Maybe you can get a little intonation out of it. And he said he spent as much time writing that because of the way that they needed it to be to what he spent on that Avengers story. And that was just kind of crazy to me, because it's just like 3 pages and mostly not words. And the other interesting thing they were telling me is that the lettering for this Peanut stuff is something that's actually one of the hardest jobs on this book, because the lettering especially has to be just so. And usually it takes letters like 3 passes on their first try for this book to get it down to where it will pass the committee. And it's one of the things they look at strictly, and compared to lettering for probably almost any other book, it's under so much more scrutiny than pretty much anything else. Like, it doesn't have to look good, it has to look like it was, and there's not too many other jobs where it's like that and up to that level of scrutiny. So I got this $10 variant just because, like, I kind of wanted to have something to hold on to, just to remember, like, that whole crazy conundrum of what they were telling me. It was really cool. So I hope you guys like that. Then we went to Layla, and she signed all my Shudder, and I went up like a dog, like, please sign all my Shudder, and yeah, she had like, my dearest darlingness, and put on my girlfriend later, and yeah, and we got all this, and it was really cool to see her again, and got everything all signed up, so hopefully I can keep my entire Shudder collection signed through, so that was cool, and so now my collection's all personalized. I'm really looking forward to this 30 Miles of Crazy. It's just all these stories from, like, Colfax, which is the longest street in America, but it's down Denver, and it's where a lot of the more colorful side of Denver rests, is the more notable part of it. And obviously the cover is, if you come into DIA, there's that demon horse there, and there's that. If you don't know, when you come into Denver, to greet you, there is this blue demonic looking horse that has red glowing eyes, and true verified, like, I looked this up, it was in the Denver Post, the sculptor, as they were putting the finishing touches and moving it to where it rests now, or right before then, it dropped and killed the guy creating it. So this piece of art that they have out there killed its creator and is just welcoming you into Denver as you come in. I don't know when they're going to get rid of it. But this is local comics, the greatest extent. I can't wait to dig into this. Another thing that, let's see here, Kevin and Karen did, 24 Hours Hamlet. This was actually done over 3 24-hour days. If you know, the yearly 24-hour comic challenge. And he did Hamlet and has his own little spin, and this should be fun to dig into as well. And Noah Van Sciver had a sampler out for some of his other stuff, and that should be fun, and always fun to read what he does. He does a lot of stuff for Westward and stuff too, but he put out, I talked about it a while back, that Abe Lincoln biography that kind of focuses more on the romance of his life. And yeah, that's most of it for local creators. Then the rest is kind of just what I bought. Before that, Sean Gordon Murphy was supposed to be there, and he wasn't. I'm really disappointed I couldn't talk to him about this. I was hoping to see him in a panel talking about just this, but didn't happen. I don't know why he dropped out, but I'm hoping maybe he'll be there soon or something. I'm so disappointed, but, you know, shit happens. But yeah, no, there was a place that had some, like, half-off trades. I picked up this, so I have some more Hellblazers. The only one there, more out of order, but, get it while it's cheap. They had a Metal Gear one. I didn't think about it till after I left, but, the guy who did the pencils for this, which isn't on the cover, I can't remember his name, was there, but, off the Batman games, it was cheap, thought it would be fun to check out. Judas Coin. This is kind of cool. Deadshot Beginnings. This is a lot of detective stories and a couple, like, Batman issues of stuff, but most of it's John Ostrander, which had him in Suicide Squad, which is something I want to collect someday. But I thought this would be fun way to dig into and kind of see some of this character back when, and kind of compare it to, like, you know, the Secret 6 days or whatever. This one was at a booth where they had trades for just $5, and I was just like, oh, this would be a cool place to check some stuff out. So there's this Doom trade. I'm like, all right. Whole thing about Doom, I'm down. And the art in here is, like, really inky and, like, that dark, like, this means more serious Marvel from the 90s. Yeah, I thought this would be cool. There's this Kang in Time Again Avengers collection. I am hoping it's just kind of an arc, but I thought it would be cool to dig into some classic Avengers, because I don't know a whole lot about really the Avengers that much at all, and never read that much. I thought, hey, yeah, that would be fun. Speaking of which, this is one I've wanted to read forever, and it was just there, the Kree Skull War. I've heard nothing but good things. This seems to be like one of those just classic storylines, so I'm glad to finally be able to dig into that. This one shocked me, although I guess it shouldn't have. $5, but Virtue and Vice, hardcover, $5. I was just like, all right, I'm hoping this is good. I figure if they have a JLA JSA crossover, it's usually something special they're bringing to the table. And then they had it there, like this whole collection in this dirt cheap section, so maybe that's a bad sign. But there's this Warren Ellis Counter X thing that started in X-Force and then kind of had its own book, drags in X-Man at some point. I thought it would be worth checking out. You know, 4 trades, we'll see. Maybe someone's read it and has some good things to say. Maybe someone read it and has some terrible things to say. Let me know. I'm, you know, figuring what the hell. Oh, this was really cool. So, I'll have to get the first one, but they have these huge books of, Lucifer now. I had no idea. It's kind of like the Constantine reprintings, although I tried reading Lucifer back in the day, and the trade that they had it on was, really gray. So it was really hard to read, that, gray, grainy print, and these are printed much nicer. I have 2 and 3, so I'll be looking to get 1, but I figured these were half off, and these are $30 trades, so that's nice. And I'm really looking forward to this. I had a friend really recommend it. He let me borrow them, and I was trying to read these things, and because of the way they were printed, they were so hard to read, it just pulled me right out. And so I'm really looking forward to revisiting these and kind of just digging in. Oh, and then we found Oko Volume 2. Now, this is something me and my girlfriend have been looking for a little over a year now. The only times we found online, it was selling for somewhere between $80 to $120 a pop. And I think they're supposed to be reprinting it soon, but we couldn't verify and we don't know. But this one has a little ding up top, but it was half off cover price. So now we can finally read the rest, and I'm really looking forward to this. If you haven't checked it out, you might want to wait for the reprint for this, but the first one's relatively easy to find. This is a translated, I believe it's French, but it's like very Japanese society. It's a beautiful, gorgeous, fun comic. Like, this is one of those things that really people should be reading. Like, it is just a lot of fun, and the only reason it's offbeat is because it originated in a different color. Another country, and it came over and has done well. It spawned actually a few multimedia things, like a board game of all things, but it's really frickin' good. It's not like one of those like, yeah, it's cool if you're into comics, you should check it out. Man, no, like, this is like creme de la creme stuff. Yeah. So Tim Sale was there, and I only got him to sign this one trade because as much as, you know, I love the Long Halloween and stuff, I was just like, you know, I like Tim Sale and stuff, but I'm not so, like, worried about getting all my trades signed. I just wanted one just for the Helavan to go up and to try to talk to him. And he wasn't very, he was nice enough. He wasn't mean or anything. He's just kind of like, you want to personalize? Yeah, sure. Okay, cool. And it was interesting, though, because I saw him on this 75-year celebration of Batman panel. And first off, again, a strike against for Comic They have all this talent in this room. The guy who drew Little Gotham, another guy who did like the Arkham Unhinged and helped with some other offshore bat stuff. They had Layman, they had Tim Sale, and they had a couple other offbeat artists who were actually... Oh my god, I'm spacing her name. The girl who wrote Birds of Prey for a while, and they had another artist who she did a little bit of Batman, but not a lot. But she was there. All this talent in one room. They don't even get a moderator, and it's like, 6 guests on this one panel. It's just like, and they're just like, come up and ask them a question. So of course all these people, what's your favorite this? What's your favorite that? Da, 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 da. I tried asking a question to get a little more out of it. My question was, since you all got a chance to work on a character that's so iconic and part of the medium, what was it that you personally wanted to bring to the character, whether drawing or writing? Didn't get a lot out of it. Tim Sale talked about how he thought Batman was actually a terrible detective and didn't take a lot of the information very well and stuff. And launched into about how he wanted Catwoman to be this very sensual, comfortable with herself creature that came on to Batman. And a couple other things. But what was interesting is all throughout this panel, Tim Sale's like actively being like, I don't give a shit about the new 52. I just did what we did. What we did was out of continuity, and like that's all. And just like kind of there is some interesting takes on a lot of it, but one of the most interesting things that came out of that panel was that Layman said his last issue of Batman Eternal just came out and he's off. He realized that all his stuff with Batman was taking away from his time with Chew, and so he wanted to focus on Chew because that was more important to him, and he realized like that had to be right, because when he's done with Chew, he's done with Chew, and he could come back to Batman as he said it. Whether or not, we'll see. But that was really interesting, and I thought fairly admirable. So that was really cool. Beyond that, it was a lot of seeing friends running into people and just like panic and mayhem and trying to grab food somewhere. Yeah, it was alright. I had fun overall, got to do a lot of stuff, obviously bought it on the comics. I also tried to fill in my Venom and Scarlet Spider runs that I missed. I think I'm missing an issue of Scarlet Spider now. But it was cool. The panels were not too engaging overall, but there were some cool ones. The ones I talked about, we got to see Kevin Conroy talk about voicing Batman, which was fun, but it becomes really apparent that, voice actors read what they're told. Got to see some people talk about the history of censorship in comics. There's some good nuggets in there, but their historical rundown was a little shaky, and their understanding of the definition of censorship was a little shaky as well. There's a difference between censorship and editorial, because they were bringing up the recent Batwoman issue and the fact that the creators left as censorship, and I see the line being drawn there, but what came down was an editorial mandate, because they hardline were not letting their characters get married. you could argue censorship, but it's not quite the same thing. So, yeah. But, let me know, and mostly, like, any of those books you guys are interested, want to hear me talk about more, that's, where I'm at. So that's your question of the day. Let me know what comics, blah, 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 that you want me to talk about. And if anyone could get any pull with Kevin Eastman to come out more my way, that would be great, because he's, like, the last creator I am dying to see. Obviously, Sean Gordon Murphy would be awesome to see, too, but not, like, need to see before I die, sort of thing. Or he dies, more likely. Age difference.